Hello, my name is Seth Delotte. I'm 20 years old and I live in Newman, Louisiana. Today I want to talk about worship and why I'm passionate about it. Worship is us praising and singing to God about how amazing He is. It's in our DNA to worship God. It's what we were created to do. Worship is a time where we can communicate with God and He can talk back to us. Worship is where my heart is at. I know that God has called me to lead worship somewhere in a church one day. And I'm currently on the worship team at my church where I play the drums. I've been playing on the worship team for about 5 years now, and God's given me the amazing gift to be able to play the drums and other instruments as well. This is one reason I know that I'm called to worship. It's sad sometimes that you go to a sporting event and you see everyone screaming and hollering and going crazy, hoping that their team will win the game. But then you go to church and everyone stands there and looks at you while you're worshiping. Like, what are you doing up there, you know? And so, people of today's society are caught up in worshiping the wrong things. They're more caught up in worshiping like idols instead of worshiping the thing that matters, which is the person that created them. So worship, it just covers a lot of things, but worship is really where I'm passionate about. Because when I'm worshiping God, you know, it just makes me feel like nothing else matters. You know, that I'm connected one-on-one with God, and it's what I love to do. It's what I was born to do. So that's my perspective on what worship is. So what's your perspective on worship?
My perspective on worship?
Yeah, what do you think what comes to mind when you think of worship?
When I think of worship, I think of giving worth to something. And obviously I'll think about worshiping God, but a lot of people I think can worship a lot of different things. I think as human beings we're made to worship, and subconsciously I think we all have something that we worship, and it's something that we place value, something that we think is worth our trust and worth investing into, and worth betting our life on, you know. When I think of worship, for me, I think of a God who is the one true God, and He's the only one worthy of that worship.
So like, what do you think when you see like worldly people at a football game like going crazy, and then they go to church and they just stare at you?
Yeah, that's a good example. I think it's funny how people will allow themselves to shout for joy, you know, at a touchdown or something, and then we think it's unnecessary for the Lord. I mean, I don't want to bash anybody, but I think God deserves the same amount of enthusiasm, you know. I mean, He definitely saved our souls from hell, and that's pretty much something to shout about.
As you see, worship is much more than just shouting, hooping, and hollering. That is a part of worship when we give unto glory to God. But is it just to be done here on a platform like this, behind a keyboard? Or is it to be done in private? I truly believe that the private worship times are just as important as the corporate. Because if you don't have a true private worship time, how can you stand up here and play and lead other people into a more intimate place of worship if you yourself haven't gone there? Worship is to be holy and set apart for God. Worship is not to be taken lightly. This is such an important tool the Lord has given us. The Bible says He seeks worshipers, not because He wants to be worshipped, but He wants us. He wants a relationship with us. And the best way I know how to increase in your relationship with God is to get in that intimate place and worship Him.